Y'all approach, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have what's court's exhibit number 1 as a note from Ms. Archer. I'm going to ask you to return to your jury room. Ms. Archer, I'm going to ask that you not return to the jury room. You can stay in the hall. I'll be out in just a moment. Thank you very much. Let me ask you all this too.
That's fine.
Summarize what she's saying. Or can we just summarize what she's saying? Which one? Let's go talk with bid ease for a few moments. Right, that's your return, please.
She's a good juror.
Those things happen.
Nope.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I hope you had a good evening and you're ready to continue that matter. The matter we started yesterday. First, let me ask you this. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you have honored the court's instruction in every respect, have not spoken with anyone, allowed anyone to talk with you, not reviewed any newspaper accounts or watched any television news reports on this trial. If you can make that commitment, say I do.
I do.
Any member of the jury panel unable to make that commitment, thank you very much again. Appreciate it so much. Question has been that there's persons, or maybe all, I don't know, it doesn't matter, that want to take notes. We have note paper, we'll make it available to you. And every judge has a different perspective on note taking. Mine is kind of a quasi, and let me just share with you. I don't have any problem. They're your notes, and they will remain here. Close the day, you will give them to the bailiff, and the bailiff then will return them to you. So if you are taking it, put your name on the first page so that you can know that they're yours. But I would hasten to add, as I mentioned to you, our court reporter has a responsibility of keeping record verbatim. That's her. And at the end of the trial, as you begin your deliberations, we have the ability to replay that testimony. And let me just say this. I've had jurors taking notes during trial. That's fine. And I had this experience about a year and a half ago, and I thought, wow, that might be the best time to take notes. The jury begun deliberations, and they couldn't agree on what a witness said or didn't say. They asked for note pads then, so that they could take down what they heard. And the reason I thought it was significant is this. We all know that body language speaks loudly. And if you're taking notes, everybody has a different ability to take notes. If you happen to be looking down, there may have been a facial expression, there may be something that was a trigger for you, and some of our assessing that credibility and believability. So that's my caution to you about note taking. But if anybody does want notes, please raise your hand. We'll make the notes available. No pass there. If any of it change, just let us know, and we'll be happy to do that. But please know that you do have the ability to be here testimony to that person. Thank you so much. Have you discussed about the time, how long you want to go? What is that? Have you selected a presiding juror? Yes, you don't have to. I'm just, okay. Anyone, what's the time?
Well, the discussion earlier was that either from 8 to 8:30 till 5 or 5:30.
So you want to start at 8?
Either 8 to 8:30, somewhere there, and finished by 5:30.
Probably, what time do y'all normally come to work? All right. Probably 8:45, maybe would be the best time, because obviously clerks come at 8 o'clock and they've got work that they have to do before you get here. So I understand that. We all, I mean, that's not uncommon. When I practiced law, I guarantee I went to work before 8 o'clock. But I understand that there are other persons that have jobs, and we have to respect their time as well. But 5:30 is about, I've heard 5 or 5:30 is a good stopping point. That's fine. Why don't we try this? Let's start at 9 o'clock, and that'll get us. That's not an imposition to anyone to come be here before 9 o'clock. Okay, good. Well, tomorrow we will start at 9, and we'll go to 5:30. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I ask you now to give your attention to the next witness. Solicitor, good morning. You may call your next witness, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Today we call Mr. Stephen Chaldi to the stand.
Okay. See, I'm an advocate for you, Heather. Advocate for you. You will.
So please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
My name is Stefano Schiraldi, Schiraldi.
Good morning, Mr. Schiraldi. Where do you currently live?
Chicago, Illinois.
How long have you lived in Chicago?
Since October
October of what year?
2015.
That's a little over about 9 months ago.
Yes.
Where did you move from when you went to Chicago?
I was living in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina.
Rose Inlet, that's in Horry County, right?
Yes.
Do you have any family that still lives in Rose Inlet?
Yes, my mom, my younger brother, and an aunt.
When you were last living in Horry County, who all did you live with?
My mom and my brother.
How many brothers or sisters do you have in total?
I have 2 brothers, a half-sister, and 2 stepsisters.
How old's your oldest brother?
25.
And where does he live?
Chicago with me.
And how old's your younger brother?
He's 20.
And where does he live?
He still lives with our mom.
All right. And was that the brother that was living with your mom when you were living there as well?
Yes.
Before you moved to Chicago, how long had you lived in Horry County?
Roughly 8 years.
Did you attend high school in Horry County?
Yes, I went to St. James High School
Did you graduate?
in 2010.
After high school, what'd you do?
I worked in and out of a couple different restaurants.
What restaurants did you work at?
Wicked Tuna down in Murrells Inlet, Gulfstream Cafe in Garden City.
In December of 2013, where were you working?
At Wicked Tuna.
And what was your job at Wicked Tuna?
I was a sauté cook.
And didn't ask you this, but what kind of restaurant is Wicked Tuna?
It's an upscale seafood restaurant.
Mr. Schiraldi, do you know Heather Elvis, or did you know Heather Elvis?
Yes.
When did you first meet her?
Unofficially in high school, just from seeing her around. Officially meeting her was on December 17th, I believe, when we had our first date.
Okay. Now in high school, were you and Heather in the same grade?
No, she was a grade below me.
Did you know her well in high school?
No, not at all.
How did you come to get in contact with her after high school?
We followed each other on Instagram and just got to talking, commenting on one of her pictures.
Was it common for you to follow several people from high school on Instagram?
Yes.
Do you remember when you started following Heather Elvis?
I don't remember.
When you commented on her picture on Instagram, how long did y'all communicate before you met her in person?
Maybe 3 or 4 days.
Now you mentioned December 17th. Did you have a chance to go on a date with Heather Elvis on that night? On that day? Excuse me.
Yes, I did.
Whose idea was it to go on the date?
It was mine.
Was this date a romantic date?
Yes.
Was this the first time that you had gone on a date with Heather Elvis?
Yes.
Now, when you went on this date with her, did you pick her up at her apartment? Did she meet you at your house, or did y'all meet somewhere? How did it come to get together?
I picked her up from her apartment.
As best you can recall, where was Heather's apartment located?
Near the River Oaks golf course off of 501 by the Bob Evans and Midas and all of that.
Do you recall what time of day or night it was that you arrived at Heather Elvis's apartment for the date?
Right around 7 p.m.
At that time, did you go in the apartment?
No, I just met her at the door.
Did you have a chance? So you didn't have a chance to go in the apartment at that point?
No, not before the date.
Okay. Did you see anything odd or suspicious about the apartment from what little bit you could see?
No.
Now, Mr. Chaldi, who drove on that date?
I did.
And what did you drive?
A 98 Ford Ranger.
What color was your truck?
It's a light blue, kind of grayish.
How many doors did it have?
2.
Was there any sort of toolbox or anything shiny in the back?
No.
How was your truck compared to the size of a Ford F-150?
Probably about half the size.
Now, Mr. Chaldi, where did you and Heather go on this date?
We started off having dinner at Banditos, which is a Spanish restaurant off of Ocean Boulevard near the Skywheel.
Do you recall if you had any alcohol with dinner that night?
I did not.
Do you recall if Heather had any alcohol with dinner that night?
She did not.
How was Heather acting towards you on the date?
Friendly, she was happy.
Did she seem distracted?
No, not at all.
Did you have any reason to believe she was in despair or upset?
No.
How long did y'all stay at Banditos?
Hour and a half, give or take.
And after Banditos, where did you go after that?
We just drove around talking for a little while, heading south, and ended up in the Inlet Square Mall parking lot where I taught her how to drive my truck, which had a manual transmission.
Yeah. Based on your conversations with Heather Elvis, did you think she knew how to drive a stick?
She did not. She said that a couple of her friends had tried to teach her before, but she could never get the hang of it.
How crowded was the parking lot when y'all were there?
It was empty.
Was the mall open?
No, it was closed.
So it was after the mall closed. Let me show you. Please let the record reflect showing opposing counsel was marked for identification purposes of 6-1.
No objection.
You're on permission to approach the witness.
You may.
Charlie, you take that from me. Mr. Chaldi, I just handed you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, it's the photograph that I took of Heather while she was driving my truck.
Who asked you to take that photo?
She asked me to take it.
Okay. Your Honor, is it a fair and accurate representation of Heather Elvis driving your truck that night?
Yes.
Your Honor, I tender into evidence State's Exhibit Number 1.
Without objection, it's submitted.
And I would ask to publish to the jury.
You may. Ladies and gentlemen, while I was doing that, I would tell you it's not uncommon during a trial that when evidence is admitted, it will be passed, and you can look at it. But please understand, anything that's admitted will accompany you to your jury room, so you'll have a chance to look at it in greater depth and detail later.
Mr. Chaldi, how did Heather do driving your truck?
She did pretty well. She picked it up in 20 minutes.
Didn't burn your clutch out or strip your gears?
Thankfully, no.
Now, Stephen, after being in the parking lot and teaching Heather how to drive a stick shift, what did you do next on the day?
We went back to my mom's house where I was staying, and we watched a movie and just hung out
Where did your mother live again?
in Merle's Inlet.
And how far away was your mother's house from the parking lot that you were at?
A 10-minute drive at the most,
In your house, where did you watch that movie at?
in my bedroom.
Do you recall what you did after the end of the movie?
After the movie, it was kind of late, so I took her home.
Now, Stephen, do you recall exactly what time you took Heather home?
Not exactly, no.
Okay. Is it possible it could have been that you could have arrived at her apartment between 1:15 and 1:30?
Yes.
Now, when you got to Heather's apartment at the end of the day, did you go inside the apartment at that point?
Briefly, yes.
How did the apartment appear?
Like your typical 20-year-old girl's apartment.
Did you see anyone else in the apartment?
No, it seemed empty.
Did you see anything out of the ordinary in the apartment?
No.
When you left Heather Elvis, or I'm sorry, how long were you at the apartment?
Maybe 5 minutes.
I think you already answered that, but just to make sure. When you left, did you see anything that caused you to be concerned for Heather Elvis?
No, I did not.
When you left the apartment, were there any plans to get together again?
Yes, we had made plans to hang out the next day after I got off of work around 3 p.m.
Where'd you go after you left Heather Elvis's apartment?
I went home.
Now, Stephen, I know you said you weren't sure exactly about what time you dropped Heather Elvis off. Were you present at her apartment when she had a 4-minute phone conversation?
No, it was not.
Was she ever away from you long enough at her apartment that she could have had a 4-minute phone conversation without you knowing?
No.
So if Heather Elvis had a 4-minute phone conversation at her apartment, it must have been after you left and dropped her off.
Correct.
Now, Stephen, did you have a chance to have any contact with Heather Elvis later in the night?
Once I got back home, I sent her a text message to tell her that, and we talked briefly for maybe 5 or so minutes before I stopped hearing from her.
Okay. How many times do you think you texted her?
Maybe 5 times between the two of us.
Okay. Was anything said or relayed to you in those text messages that caused you to have any concern for Heather?
No.
Where were you when you sent those text messages?
I was home.
And was that your mom's house?
Yes.
Did you leave your mom's house again in the early morning hours of the 18th?
Not until I left for work around 9:30.
The following day, did you attempt to contact Heather Elvis?
Yes, I called her maybe twice after I got off of work and didn't hear from her, and sent her a message on Facebook probably a couple hours later.
Did you get any response?
I did not.
What do you think had happened?
Maybe her phone was dead, lost her phone, left it somewhere.
Were you at that point concerned for her safety?
No, I just assumed that she was busy and that she would get back to me.
When did you first become aware that something had happened to Heather?
Later in the evening.
Objection to the form of the question, Your Honor.
Overruled that.
When did you first become aware something had happened to Heather?
Later in the evening, I believe, of the 18th, her roommate Bree messaged me on Facebook and asked me to call her, and that's when she explained to me everything that was going on.
Stephen, since the early morning hours of the 18th of December 2013, when you left Heather Elvis's apartment, have you seen Heather Elvis?
I have not.
Since those text messages that you sent her that night, later on that night, have you had any communication with Heather Elvis whatsoever?
None.
Stephen, do you recall what your phone number was in December of 2013?
Yes, I do.
I'd ask Your Honor permission for the witness to come off the stand and write on a piece of paper, on a legal pad or a giant pad, what his phone number was. Mr. Chaldi. If you would, Mr. Chaldi, please write your name as legibly as you can, and next to it place the phone number that you had on December 13th, or December 18th, excuse me, of 2013. Thank you, Mr. Chaldi. You can have a seat. Now, Mr. Chaldi, you wrote a phone number of 443-624-6288. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Where's that phone number from?
Maryland?
Is that where you were from prior to moving to Horry County?
Yes.
Let me go back and ask you just a couple of additional questions. When you were on the date with Heather Elvis, was she talking with anyone on the phone regularly or in any way talking with someone on the phone?
After she asked me to take a picture of her driving my truck, she sent that picture to who I was under the belief to be her roommate.
Okay. But did she have a conversation with anybody?
No, she did not.
And I've already asked you this, but just to clarify, when you left Heather Elvis's apartment, did you see anyone else there?
No, I did not.
And when you left, when were you planning on meeting with her again?
The next day after I got off of work.
At any point in the early morning hours of December 18, 2013, did you contact Heather Elvis from any other phone number than the one you placed on that board?
No, I did not.
Thank you, Stephen. That's all the questions I have. Please answer any questions Mr. Tressler might have.
Sure.
You may cross-examine.
Mr. Chaldi, you're testifying today in front of the jury in this trial.
Yes, that's correct.
And you expect to be believed about everything you've testified to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as of up to this point, you really haven't been challenged on what you've said, have you, by the state?
No, sir.
Okay. Would you agree with me that you are the last individual to lay eyes on Heather Elvis?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Is it safe to say that during your high school years, you knew Heather Elvis didn't know you?
I couldn't speak for her, but I did know who she was.
Okay. But you had no interaction with her?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. At the time that Heather disappeared, she was 20 years old. Do you know that?
Yes, I did.
So we're talking probably about 2 years post-high school, right? Been out of high school about well, you were a year behind or ahead?
Ahead.
Okay, so you've been out of high school 3 years, she'd been out about 2 years.
Yes, sir.
So 2 or 3 days before she went missing, you found her on social media and commented on a picture on her Instagram.
Well, I had already been following her on social media, but I did comment on her picture.
Okay. Now, when you say following her on social media, that means that you're tapped in and you can see things that she's posting out there.
Right.
But the first time you reached out to her and actually commented as yourself was 2 or 3 days before she went missing.
Approximately.
Okay. And that got some type of response, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you got to texting or posting or however that works, you got her to agree to go on a date with you within 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
You went to her apartment and picked her up.
Yes.
You took her to dinner.
Yes.
Nobody drank alcohol?
Nobody drank alcohol.
Okay. You then drove her to the not the abandoned, but the vacant mall parking lot because the mall was closed, correct?
Correct.
And then you let her drive your car and learn how to drive a stick shift?
Yes.
And you took a picture of her doing it?
Yes.
And she wanted you to?
Yes, she asked me to.
Okay. When you took her back to her apartment, you went inside?
Briefly, yes.
Okay. What transpired inside? What did you do?
It was just a quick tour of, hey, this is where I live, this is my place, and then we said goodnight and shared a kiss and parted ways.
Did you share the kiss inside or outside?
Outside.
Okay. Was there any talk about you staying any longer than 5 or 10 minutes?
No, we were both tired and ready to call it a night.
All right. Would you, if given the opportunity, stay longer?
I don't think that I would have, no.
All right. When the prosecutor asked you what time you dropped her off, you said you didn't remember.
Not exactly, no.
And then he said, could it have been 1:15 to 1:30 a.m.?
Yes, it could have been.
Could have been, and it might not have been.
That's
Correct?
a possibility, yes.
Okay. Now, after dinner, before you drop her off, you take her back to where you're living, correct?
Correct.
You take her into your bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And you watch a movie.
Right.
Do you recall which movie that was?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did anybody ever, December 18th, 19th, when people started talking to you, does anybody ever ask you what movie you watched?
No.
Okay. Now, you lived with your mom and your 20-year-old brother? He's 20
now, so he would have been 17 at the time.
Okay, you lived with your mom and your 17-year-old brother.
Yes.
What does your mother, does she work?
Yes, she's a zone manager for Walmart in Garden City.
Okay, and what shift was she working at the time?
She was at work, but she was working a second shift, so she probably got off around midnight.
Okay, got off around midnight. So, does your mom make a habit of staying up to 2 or 3 a.m., or does she usually settle down and get sleep?
Not usually. It just depends on the day she's had.
Okay. You told the state that you never went back out that night.
Not after I dropped her off and came home.
Okay. And that's on your honor.
It's on my honor.
And that's, we're to believe that that is true based upon your word.
Yes, sir.
And nothing else.
Yes, sir.
If you wanted to, could you have gotten your truck and left the house, if you so desired?
Yes.
And went anywhere you wanted to go?
Yes.
Okay. Did you learn when you were dealing with the solicitors and investigators that there was a period of hours that Heather was driving around, or it appeared to be that by her phone that she was driving around in various locations, Longbeard's parking lot, different areas?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. There's no way that you left the house and followed her around?
No, there's not.
There's no way that you never left her house and stayed outside in your truck?
I went home.
Okay. According to you?
Yes.
Do you believe that that could be somewhat suspicious?
That I went home?
If somebody else looking at it, does that seem suspicious to you?
No, it would just seem like a regular night that two people went out on a date and parted ways.
And nobody else knows what you were up to, but you?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions.
Redirect.
Real briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Chaldi, just to clarify, where did you go after you dropped Heather Elvis off?
I went home.
And did you leave your house again that night?
I did not.
Did you contact Heather Elvis from a payphone or any other phone number?
No, I did not.
Then you stated that, as far as you know, you were the last person to see Heather Elvis. Do you know if she met someone after you left?
I have no idea.
Do you now, or did you then, drive a black and color Ford F-150?
I have never.
Did you drive down Highway 814 in the early morning hours of December 18th?
I don't even know what road that is, to be honest with you.
Did you ever drive down a road called Mill Pond Road?
No.
Did you go to the Peachtree Boat Landing on December 18th, 2013?
No.
And at your mother's house, who all lives there again?
My mom and my younger brother.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Ross.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Very well, you may come down and read this witness to be
The
excused.
state would request that this witness be excused from his subpoena, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
You also plead to leave, sir. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time the state calls Casey Gusowitz. He can correct it when he gets there.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Place your left hand on the Bible. You solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Just look at my phone, state your full name and spell your last name.
Good morning. My first name is Casey, C-A-S-E-Y. Last name is Guskowitz, G-U-S-K-I-E-W-I-C-Z.
Give her 1 minute. She's marking a few things.
Sure.
What?
Thanks.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you. Casey, if you don't mind, tell this jury where you're employed.
Ma'am, I'm employed with the Ord County Police Department.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell them how long you've been working with the county.
3 years with the police department and 3 years prior with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell them what your current responsibilities are.
Right now, I'm assigned to the patrol unit out of the Central Precinct, Sector 14 area.
Okay, and were you working with the county police in December of 2013?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell this jury what your responsibilities were at that time.
Responsibilities include patrolling the area of Sector 14, and our responsibilities are to ensure the safety of the lives and property of the guests and citizens of Ord County.
Okay, so basically you were patrolling the area
Yes, ma'am.
and you were responding to any calls you were dispatched to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now if you don't mind, tell them, were you working the early morning hours of December 18th of 2013?
Yes, ma'am. My shift started Tuesday, December 17th at 5:45 p.m. and scheduled to end at 6 a.m. The 18th.
Okay, so you were out patrolling, just so everybody knows what I mean by early hours, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock a.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, dark outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, tell this jury, that particular morning of December 18th, did you have an occasion to go to Peachtree Landing?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, and if you don't mind, is that part of your regular patrol?
Yes, ma'am. The Peachtree area is probably the easternmost part of my patrol area. Again, there's 2 boat landings down there along Peachtree Road that I check regularly.
Okay. Now, tell me this. Are there 2 landings in that area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you go by both landings that night?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And at either landing, did you find anything suspicious that you got out and checked on?
Yes, ma'am. The Peachtree boat landing at the end of Peachtree Road.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, tell this jury about the fact that there's 2 landings, where one is
I would
located.
object to leading.
Thank you. Just ask a question, please.
If you don't mind, tell this jury where both landings are located.
Sure. The Socastee boat landing is located. Sure. The Socastee boat landing is located close to Dick Pond Road in the Peachtree area. It's just after the Kensgar gated living community, and it feeds into the Intercoastal Waterway. The second is the Peachtree boat landing, which is at the very end of Peachtree Road, which I believe is the Waccamaw River.
Okay. And which landing did you find the vehicle at?
That would be the Peachtree boat landing at the end of Peachtree Road.
Okay. And if you don't mind, describe that landing to this jury.
It's a very small boat landing. There's one road that leads into it. That road leads right directly to a stop sign. It's very dark at the end of that road. That stop sign is there just in case, if you did not know the area, you'd pretty much drive straight into the water.
Okay. And at that time, were there any street lights out there?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So it's one way in and one way out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this crowd what is around that landing.
There's just a small parking area on both sides of the landing. To the eastern side of the boat landing, there was a small trailer park with about maybe, I'd say, 6 residents there. And to the west of the boat landing, there's nothing but swamp area.
Okay. And no street light?
No, ma'am.
And one way in, one way out?
One way out.
Okay. Now,
Let's refrain from leading, please.
thank you, Judge. If you don't mind, tell this jury what you saw that early morning when you went down to that landing.
Yes, ma'am. Shortly after 4 o'clock, it's about 5 or 6 minutes after 4, I pulled up to the Peachtree boat landing at the stop sign, and I observed just beyond the stop sign, there was a dark and colored Dodge sedan parked right in the boat landing.
Okay. If you don't mind, were there any other vehicles down there?
No, ma'am. It was the only vehicle that was there.
Okay. And what road did you take to get to Peachtree?
I came off of Dick Pond Road and turned onto Peachtree Road. And again, I checked the first boat landing after Kensgar and then drove directly to the Peachtree boat landing after that.
Okay. Now, when you were on your way to the landing, did you see anybody walking on the road or anything suspicious?
No, ma'am. That time of day and that time of night, especially that time of year, I would have stopped and asked somebody what they were doing that time if they needed help.
Okay. And when you say that time of night, you really mean around 4 a.m. in the morning?
Yes, ma'am. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Refrain from leading,
Okay.
please.
Now, when you get down there, you see the car. What do you do?
Sustained. Listen, please ask questions and not lead.
I will. I'm just trying to catch them up to speed.
I understand. Just ask the
Okay.
questions.
What did you see when you got down there?
Yes. Again, I observed the vehicle parked awkwardly at the boat landing. It wasn't typically parked where people usually park their vehicles. They usually park them facing the riverside. I parked just enough where I could see the license plate number. So I ran the tag using my in-car computer. The license plate did not come back stolen. It was just a regular license plate. It came back registered to an Elvis subject. I exited my patrol vehicle and I approached the vehicle from the driver's side. I looked in the back seat first using a flashlight. I didn't observe anybody inside. Again, I checked the front seat. Nobody was sitting in the front seat. I checked all the door handles to make sure they were locked and secured. All the glass was secured. All the glass is intact. Went around the passenger side, did the same thing. Checked the windows to make sure they're all intact. They're all intact. Checked all the doors to make sure they're locked. I checked the steering column through the passenger side to make sure the steering column hadn't been tampered with. Showed no signs that it had been broken into. Checked the rest of the area looking around the boat landing to make sure there was nothing, no kinds of debris, nothing showing anybody was around.
Okay. So, just so I'm correct, you roll up. Are your headlights on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have a spotlight on your car?
Yes, ma'am. I did activate the spotlight to illuminate the vehicle.
And did you use the spotlight that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when you drive up, you have your headlights and you turn the spotlight on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I'm clear, you actually get out of the car and look at all these things around the car that you just told us about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the car, was the car turned off?
The car was off, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and were all the doors and windows rolled up, closed?
Yes, ma'am. All doors were locked, all windows were rolled up and intact.
Okay, and did you look into the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you see any car keys in the car?
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you see a cell phone in the car?
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you see a cell phone or car keys anywhere out in the landing area?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you told this jury earlier that you also looked around the area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and is there a swamp to the right?
Yes, ma'am. There's a swamp to the right.
Did you look in there?
Yes, ma'am. I used my flashlight to illuminate it to see if there's anybody in there.
Okay, and did you see anybody in there?
No.
Okay, and did you look across the river?
Yes, ma'am. I looked out on the river. Didn't see nothing. No boats. No nothing.
Okay, okay, and did you look to the left?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see anything out there?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a few pictures if you don't mind, Casey. 1 second. And I've marked them. If you don't mind, as you're looking at them, let this lady know which one you're looking at by the number on the back.
Sure.
Okay, so if you don't mind, look through all of them and tell me if you recognize them. Hold on, I'm sorry, he's looking, okay, yeah, if you don't mind, thank you.
Sure. Look at picture number 3. And yes, I do recognize that one.
Okay.
And picture number 4, yes, ma'am, I recognize this one as well. This is picture number 5, I recognize it. This is picture number 6, and I recognize it as well. This is picture number 7, and I also recognize this one, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell this court how you recognize those pictures.
I recognize the area of Peachtree Boat Landing, just being familiar with the area.
Okay, and if you don't mind, whose car is in those pictures?
That is my patrol vehicle in this picture, and I believe this is the investigator's car parked at the...
Okay, and were you present when these pictures were taken?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, and did you tell the person taking the picture how her car was parked that night?
Yes, ma'am, I instructed where the vehicle was parked.
Okay, and where that white vehicle is parked, is that where her car, Heather Elvis's car, was parked?
Yes, ma'am, that is where it was parked.
Okay, and your car is in the picture as well?
Yes, ma'am, that is my patrol vehicle.
Is that where your car was parked?
Yes, ma'am, that's how I aligned it.
Okay, and are those pictures accurate of what you saw that night?
Yes, ma'am.
And is the lighting accurate as how it was that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is the only difference the fact that it is an investigator's car parked there instead of the victim's, Heather Elvis?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time the state wishes to move into evidence states 3 through 7 and publish to the jury.
Without objection.
States 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are admitted without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you mind if the witness steps down so we can go through the pictures with the jury?
Only if he keeps his voice elevated, please, so that the court reporter can make sure.
Sir, you must.
If you need
Make
to-
sure you keep your voice up. This lady has to hear you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, let's go through these pictures. I'd like to go through them as you're coming up the road. I'm showing you now state's evidence number 6. Tell this jury what they're looking at.
What you're looking at here is if you're coming down Peachtree Road from Dip Pond Road, straight on into the Peachtree Boat Landing and a stop sign.
Are there any street lights in this picture?
No, ma'am.
Were there any street lights when you went down there at 4 a.m. on December 18th?
No, ma'am, there were none.
Now, I'm showing you now state's evidence number 3. Tell this jury what we're looking at.
What you're looking at right here is how I parked my vehicle behind hers. You can clearly see hers is parked just beyond the stop sign and not in a parking space. And I, again, aligned my vehicle safely behind hers to make a rear approach.
Now, these pictures are very dark. Tell this jury what way is her car facing?
Her car is facing towards the water.
And I'm showing state's evidence number 7. Tell this jury what they're looking at.
You're looking at the two vehicles parked, front to rear. This is at an angle looking facing west on the boat ramp, excuse me.
As you look past, what's back here?
Back in this area is nothing but trees and swamp area.
Now, I'm going to show them one more picture. This is state's evidence number 4.
Yes, ma'am.
What are they looking at?
Same thing. It's how my vehicle is positioned behind hers. And again, beyond the cars is just nothing but swamp and marsh area.
If you don't mind, tell this jury why you used your spotlight that night when you got out.
At that time, especially that time of year, it's very dark, pretty much pitch black. You can't see nothing from as you get out of the vehicle without your spotlight, without your headlights. There's almost no visibility. And again, that stop sign is there because if you didn't know the water was there, you'd go straight into the water.
Okay. And I'm showing you now state's evidence number 5. You recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
That is with the entrance to the actual boat land, the boat ramp, right there, just beyond the stop sign, facing the water.
Is that accurate of how it looked at 4 a.m. on December 18th?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, Casey, have a seat. I've got a few more questions for you.
Sure.
Tell this jury, when you first drove up behind her car, could you tell if anybody was in the car?
No, ma'am.
How did you discover whether or not someone was in the car?
Once again, I got out of my vehicle and made a rear approach and used a flashlight to inspect the vehicle, and there was nobody inside. It was unoccupied.
Okay. Okay. But there was no way for you to see from your car to her car there was anybody in there?
Sustained, bleeding, well, you covered that, so let's anyway, move on with it.
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
You covered that already several times about who was there, what he did.
It's okay.
Move on, sorry.
Now, about how long did you spend at the landing?
Altogether, I was probably there about 5 to 6 minutes tops.
Okay. And while you were down there, did anybody show up?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And while you were down there, did you see anybody or hear anything?
No, ma'am. Again, that time of year, that time of night, I would have stopped and asked.
Okay. Now, had you been to that landing the night before as part of your patrol?
Are you referring to the Monday night?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I have been, yes.
And was there a vehicle down there that night?
No, ma'am.
Now, when you left Peachtree Landing, tell this jury the route you took when you left Peachtree Landing.
When I left Peachtree Boat Landing, I headed back towards Dick Pond, but instead of going that way, I made a left onto Mill Pond Road. And after traveling Mill Pond Road, I made a left onto Highway 814 and took 814 to Highway 544 and back towards Conway.
Now, when you were down there before you left, did you see any reason to call anything in?
No, ma'am.
Did you do an incident report?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever contact the person who the car belonged to?
No, ma'am, I did not.
And if you don't mind, tell this jury why you didn't.
Oh, at that, it's not uncommon for people to leave their boats, or excuse me, their vehicles parked at boat landings overnight or even for extended periods of time.
Okay. And at that time, did you have any reason to believe to do further investigation at the landing?
No, ma'am, it was just a vehicle parked at the boat landing.
Okay. And you never saw any signs of a struggle?
No, ma'am.
Now, when you left and went down Mill Pond and came up 814, did you see anybody walking on the roadway at that time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And did you see anything suspicious on Mill Pond or 814?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, tell this jury, are those secondary roads or are those main roads?
I believe they're secondary roads.
Any stoplights on Mill Pond?
No, ma'am.
Any stoplights on 814?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may look at that one real time, just so my client can see it.
Sure.
Before it's used as demonstrative evidence. This is joined by him? Okay, just let me show my client.
Sure.
Okay, no problem, Your Honor, thank you.
Casey, I'm showing you now what we've marked as State's Exhibit number 8.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do this.
Sure.
Do you recognize what this is?
Yes, ma'am, that's a map I drew.
And if you don't mind, tell this jury what this is a map of.
This is the map of basically Mill Pond Road, intersecting with Highway 814 and Peachtree Road.
And does this show the route that you took?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And could you use this map to show the route to the jury?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, at this time, the state wishes to put State's Exhibit 8 into evidence and publish it to the jury.
I'm going to object to that. I don't think foundation's been laid, there's roads missing from it, it's just a hand-drawn demonstrative.
It's admitted subject to the objection,
Yes.
but he's already described it, so you can go ahead and show it.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, can Casey step down?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, show this jury the route you took
Okay.
that night.
The building was parked down this area here, and I'm gonna head back towards Dick Pond Road, which intersects up this way. I made a left onto Mill Pond Road, and just
Make sure you speak up because you're
excuse me,
facing me.
I apologize. Again, I made a left on the Mill Pond Road, and I started traveling the road towards Highway 14, where here, again, it's the stop sign for this intersection, coming out only, but not here. I made a left on Highway 14, back towards Highway 544.
Okay. And how long have you been patrolling this area?
Currently 3 years.
Okay. Now, you've got Peachtree Road coming in here, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When you come to the end this way, where are you at?
At the end of this road here is Dick Pond Road.
Okay. And is there anything there at the end of Dick Pond Road?
No, ma'am. At the end of Dick Pond Road, there's the swing bridge, and there's also an apartment complex. But further, a little bit north over here along Forest Brook and Dick Pond Road, there is a convenience store.
Okay. And about how far is that convenience store from Mill Pond Road?
You know, I'm going to object because she's asking questions now that are off the map.
No, then you come back to stand. If we finish the map, there's no need for him to be there, but objections based on, overruled objection on that basis.
Yes.
Thank you. If you don't mind, Casey, tell us about how far is the nearest convenience store from Mill Pond Road?
From Mill Pond Road, I'd say it's probably at least 2 miles.
Okay. And is there anything else at the end of this road, this Peachtree Road, when you go this way?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And what else is to the right? When you come down Mill Pond and you take a right, what else is down there?
Again, there's a few roads leading into houses, and there's another trailer park down here on the side of the boat landing, and that's it. Nothing else.
Are there any stores, businesses, or anything open at 4 a.m. when you go down Peachtree Road?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, is the store open that you were telling us about over here at 4 a.m.?
I believe it's open all night, 24 hours, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's the only location to the left of Mill Pond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, and you went back Mill Pond Road, 814, up to 544?
814, and obviously 814 elbows around this way and reconnects to Highway 544. That's where I got back on Highway 544.
Okay. And are you familiar with where this defendant lives?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what road does he live on?
He lives on Highway 814.
Okay. And between Highway 814 and this first stop sign, how many ways are there to get to Highway 544?
Again, you can directly access Highway 544 from Highway 814 because they intersect. Then there's also one side road, there's Roscoe Road, which leads directly to Highway 544 and 814. It connects. And again, there's these side roads right here. Peachtree Drive leads into Peachtree Lane, and that will put you right back on Highway 544. And then, of course, if you take a left onto Mill Pond Road, it will bring you right back into Highway 544.
Okay. So there are 3 roads from the defendant's house to this first stop sign that lead back out to 544?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, tell us how many roads from 814 to the end of Mill Pond that go out to Highway 544?
There's none.
Okay. So once you're on Mill Pond, there's no outlets to 544?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
You can only go to Peachtree or back that way. Excuse me.
Okay. And let me ask you this. Once you go to this stop sign here, is there another way to get to Peachtree Landing other than going down Mill Pond Road and taking this right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So once you're on Mill Pond, so you have to get on Mill Pond to get to Peachtree Road from 814?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And about how long is it from the end of Mill Pond to the boat landing?
It's about 3/4 of a mile.
Okay. Okay. Now, does this map indicate where the defendant lives?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this jury where he lives.
If the map were to extend, I mean, it'd be further on over here. I mean, abstractly speaking, it'd probably be right around, close over this area right here.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this jury, can you see his house from the road?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell them why you can't see his house from the road.
I believe there's trees blocking the view, and there's also another residence parked in front of his. Or, excuse me, parked, there's another residence built in front of his.
Okay. So tell this jury, when you were going that night down 814, could you see his residence?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Just a few more questions, Casey, if you don't mind. Have a seat. I'm going to leave this up. I think I might need to ask you a couple more questions. What time did you leave the landing?
It was probably right around 4:06, 4:07, somewhere around there.
Okay. Okay. Now, if you don't mind, is that the route you normally take?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long have you been patrolling that particular route?
I've been patrolling that area 3 years now.
Okay. And that particular area you've been patrolling for 3 years?
Currently, but at the time, that night, it's been probably about 6 months.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this jury the quickest route to go from 814 to Peachtree Landing.
The quickest route to get from 814 to Peachtree Boat Landing would be taking a right on the Mill Pond Road and following all the way to the T intersection and making a right on the Peachtree Road. That'll lead you right to it at its quickest.
So it'd be 814, Mill Pond, and then the landing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Casey, I don't have any further questions for you. Thank you. Please answer any questions Mr. Trusslow has.
Ms. Livesey, could you leave that up there?
You can leave it up,
Nancy, could
Let
you,
it-
I'll get it.
You can leave it up.
I'm going to move this, Joe.
No, he's going to use it.
Oh, you want it up there?
Yes, sir. May I ask the officer down for a couple
Sure.
of questions?
Just keep your voice out there.
Sure.
Get that done.
I've just got 1 to 2 questions on this map. When you come down Mill Pond Road, you run into Peachtree Road, correct?
Correct.
If you turn right, you go down to the landing. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
If you turn left, you go up to a convenience store. You can get to a convenience store, it's open 24 hours, right?
Yes, sir.
You also can come up here and circle back around, that's old 544. It comes up to 45, 44.
Dick Pond Road, or whatever they call
Right.
it. Yes, sir.
And you can also turn right and go down towards the swing bridge,
Yes, sir.
which brings you into Socastee,
Yes, sir.
which is where all the restaurants and the other convenience stores, the high school and all that area is,
Yes, sir.
right? All right, that's all I've got in regards to this, if you take a stand, please. And then, just to summarize your testimony, outside of what we just did with the map, sometime after 4 a.m., you found Heather Elvis's vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had to use a spotlight because it was dark, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Read it back.
No further questions, Your Honor?
Okay, you wish the witness to be excused, Ms. Lysa? You wish her to be-
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
No objection.
You're also free to leave. Thank you, sir. Okay, call your next witness.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, the state calls Danny first.
Sir, please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. You solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Danny Lamar Fur, F-U-R-R,
If you don't mind, Mr. Fur, tell this jury where you're currently employed.
Horry County Police Department,
And how long have you been with the county?
17 years.
Okay. And what is your current position?
My current position is sergeant on patrol.
Okay. And what was your position back in December of 2013?
Corporal on patrol.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this jury what your responsibilities were as a corporal.
As a corporal, I assist both the fellow officers on the road in supervisory issues and also assist my sergeant above me in handling calls for service all around the South Precinct, but both supervisory role and call taking.
Okay. And were you working in December of 2013?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were working as a corporal, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so that means you were on the road.
I was, yes, ma'am. Uniform patrol.
Now, in December of 2013, tell this jury, did you have an occasion to talk to the defendant?
I did.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell this jury why you talked to him in December 2013.
I spoke to the defendant in reference to attempting to locate the Heather Elvis. But we had gotten a report of her possibly being missing.
Okay. And if you don't mind, tell me first how you even got Sidney Moore's phone number to contact him.
Upon receiving the initial call, I responded to where Heather Elvis worked at her work location, which is in the city of Myrtle Beach, and spoke with the manager there, her boss, and he provided me the number for the defendant.
Okay. And how did it come about that he provided you with Sidney's number or the defendant's number?
In the conversation with the manager, it was learned that there was a relationship between the defendant and Heather Elvis. And in the further conversation of Sidney possibly knowing where Heather Elvis may be or have information of where Heather Elvis may be, I asked for his phone number to contact him, thinking that he would have direct information on where her whereabouts would be.
Okay. Did you know who Sidney Moore was before you went to Tilted Kill?
I did not.
Okay. Did you know anything about her relationship with the defendant before you went to Tilted Kill?
No, I did not.
Okay. And did the manager at Tilted Kill give you anybody else's phone number to contact?
No, he did not.
Okay. So you get the phone number, and do you contact Sidney Moorer?
Yes, I did,
And how did you contact the defendant, by phone or in person?
by phone.
Okay, and did he pick up at the phone number you called?
He did.
Okay, and if you don't mind, tell this jury about that conversation.
When I made the phone call, of course, every time I call somebody, I identify myself. When I made the phone call, Sidney Moorer picked up the phone, and I stated I was corporal for the Horry County Police Department, and there was a pause, and I said hello, because I thought we had gotten cut off, and he said, yes. And I said, is this Sidney Moorer? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm calling in reference to Heather Elvis, and whether you may have information about where I can get in touch with her. We're currently looking for her, and she may or may not be missing. And I need your help in reference to this. And I've been to where both of y'all had worked and where she still worked. And the manager had indicated that you may have some information on where I could find her or how to get in touch with her. From there, he stated that he had not spoken with her in at least 6 weeks. And we spoke a little bit further, and I asked again, well, what was the conversation? What is the relationship there? And he stated that he had actually talked to her the night before, and he had only talked to her to tell her to stop contacting him. I made reference to the fact that at first I was told that they hadn't talked in 6 weeks, and now they talked the night before. From there, I indicated that we needed to speak further, and someone needed to come in person to speak with him, because I was getting 2 different stories. So that's when basically the conversation ended, and I had indicated that someone would be over there to speak with him in person.
Okay. And did he tell you that he had reached out to her the night before and called her?
He only indicated to me that she had been contacting him repeatedly, and he had only spoken to her to tell her to stop contacting him.
Okay. And did he tell you how many times he had talked to her?
He didn't. He stated that he had only talked to her once.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Did he tell you that he had called her from a payphone?
No, he did not.
Okay. And he didn't tell you he had talked to her 2 times that night?
No, absolutely not, no.
Okay. And once you talked to him, what did you do? Who did you contact next?
I contacted my subordinate, Officer Casey Canterbury.
And at that time, what did you direct him to do after talking to the defendant?
I directed him to go to Sidney Moore's house to speak with him in person in reference to Heather Elvis.
Okay, and did you give him Sidney Moore's phone number so he'd have his information?
I did.
Okay, and did you direct him to talk to anyone else?
I did not.
Okay, and had you gotten any other phone numbers or names other than the defendants from the people at Tilted Kill?
No, I did not.
Okay, and do you know if she was scheduled to come into work the next day?
She was scheduled for the next day, and that's why I originally went up there to see if she was either working or when she had to work again, but she was scheduled for the next day, yes ma'am.
Okay. And did anyone at the Tilted Kill indicate to you that, look, she may have just run off, she does that all the time?
No ma'am.
Okay, so nobody ever said anything close to that to you?
No ma'am.
If you don't mind, tell this jury, after you talked to him, why didn't you just end it there? Why did you send somebody to talk to him again?
During our phone conversation, I felt that there was some hesitation in the answers, and as stated before, I had received one answer about not speaking with her in 6 weeks, and then a short time later in the same conversation, I was told that they spoke the night before. Being that things didn't seem to be adding up, I felt a follow-up investigation with the defendant was necessary.
No further questions for this witness, right?
Officer Furr, I want to show you a crime report that you signed off on. Okay. Officer, I want to direct you to paragraph 3.
Yes, sir.
Now, in that, it states that you state that Sidney Moorer said that he had not talked to her since October, and that he admitted that he had talked to her on the phone. Do you see that in paragraph 3?
Yes.
I just wanted to see if I could get a look at what he was showing Mr.
Well, I
Furr,
need to mark it.
Well, it's
just so we can be on the same page.
You need to mark it with identification so we'll have it.
That's what you gave me. I'm going to mark it as defense 1 for identification only.
Sure, but that's not his report.
He's reviewing officers sent over.
The reporting officers can't be.
It's not, let's not have the conversation, please, in front of you. You can cross-examine for identification only at this point, so it's not an issue.
All right, so let's start here on the first page of this, and if you could look up in the second column.
Yes, sir.
Where it says verified by, and tell me who that report is verified by.
For Danny, myself.
That's you.
Yes.
And that's after you had directed Canterbury to look into this.
Yes.
So this is kind of a comprehensive thing of what happened, and then you having him go do what he did.
Yes.
Okay. So in paragraph 3 of this, does that not say that Sidney said that he had not seen Heather since October? Not that he had not called her or talked to her.
It does say,
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I do have an objection. The report he's reading off of,
What's the basis of, don't state, what's the basis of your objection?
that is not his report, and it doesn't indicate the conversation he
Thank
had
you
with
very
the
much.
defendant.
Objections overruled. You can cross-examine. He's answered. I'm allowing, the report is not being offered in the evidence at this point, so
Sir,
thank you.
And in reviewing that, as having been the reviewing officer signing off on that, can you also indicate that then he then admitted that he had talked to her last night, shortly after what you just saw?
it does state that, yes.
Okay. All right, that's all on that. So basically, you testified you may have had some hesitation and you wanted to follow up with Sidney Moorer, correct?
Yes, sir.
But it's not because he said he had not talked to her. He said he had not seen her, according to this report.
According to that report, Kenneth Canterbury's report, that's what that states.
Which you read, and you are the reviewing officer, and you
I am.
verified this, correct?
I am.
All right. Now,
Kurt, you need to leave that.
now in terms of, I want to show you one more thing.
Okay.
In this same report that you reviewed, if you look at that last paragraph on the first page, at the same time this is going on, did you develop another suspect, Jeremy Fleming, in that paragraph?
I did not develop him as a suspect.
You're aware of it as being the reviewing?
I am.
And was that because he was reported to be abusive to Heather?
Yes, I have been told.
Ex-boyfriend?
I was told that. I wasn't the one that developed him as a suspect.
All right, but that was part of the investigation?
It is, yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
Now, in terms of, you testified that you talked to the manager at Chaldi, which is what then got you to Sidney to see if he had information, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's an individual by the name of Dennis Hart?
I don't recall.
You don't know who that was that you talked to?
I know I talked to the manager. I don't recall his name. It's been a while.
Okay. just want to ask you if you can, and you may not be able to, I want to ask you if you can identify that, and then if you've ever seen that report.
I have not seen this report.
Your Honor, just, can I get a look at what he was showing the
I'm
witness?
sure.
That's why he just said, I've not seen it, so I guess it's not going any further, but you can show it to him. Because nothing you can ask him about that now.
Can you recognize that
He said
report?
he never seen it.
No, this is another.
Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I do recognize this.
All right, show that to council, please.
Okay.
All right, this, and I'm going to give this back to you. Let me mark this as Defense Exhibit 2 for identification only, please.
Very well. Let me, before you do that, here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear identification, because I mentioned to you, exhibits will accompany you. If the report is marked for identification, that does not mean it's admitted yet. So please understand that, because a lot of times I have jurors ask a question, because it's not uncommon. Attorneys may ask about a document, but if they won't admit it, but you can, certainly you will consider the testimony about the document, but the document itself will not accompany you to your jury room unless it's formally admitted. Okay? Thank you. Excuse me.
I'll give you back what you said you identified. Now that, can you explain to me just, and if you need to review it, take all the time you need, but basically, can you just give me this, what that is, and not what all's in it, but what that is?
It's a supplemental report.
Okay. And what is basically the subject matter of that report?
The subject matter of the report is my response along with my officer's response to the initial call.
Okay. And if you need to review it, let me know, but does that go into your connection to the manager at Tilt to Kill that we just weren't able to identify? Does that recollect refresh your memory? That if that was Dennis Hart?
It states that I received information from the manager.
Okay. But in this document, it's not calling him by name Dennis Hart.
I don't see that portion of it in skimming through the document.
Can you identify this document? Have you ever seen that?
I have not seen this document.
You had a chance to look at it?
Just now.
Okay.
I've now not read it, no, sir.
Okay. Can you look through it a little bit more?
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's a good enough answer, I'm sorry. So this report and the one I just previously showed you, you've never seen these reports?
I haven't seen that report. I saw the first one.
But the other one you
Yes.
didn't identify. All right, so in terms of talking to the manager of the Tilted Kill, you don't remember him by name?
I don't remember by name. He identified himself as the manager.
Okay. Do you remember anything else about him?
I remember he was dressed differently than everyone else.
Okay. Did you, you aware of any investigation as to him?
I am not, no, sir.
Have you reviewed it? Have you reviewed the file in this case prior to coming to testify, or only your portions?
Only my portion.
Okay. All right, so again, after reviewing, just to summarize and I'm done, after reviewing the part that is your portion, you would agree with me that that report indicates from you and Officer Canterbury that what he told you was that he had not seen Heather Elvis since October.
I don't recall the scene part. I remember being told that he had not spoken to her in 6 weeks.
Okay, but the report we just went through, it doesn't say that, right?
Canterbury's report states that, yes, sir.
But you were the reviewing officer.
I was the verifying officer, yes.
Okay, so that report I'm saying, does that say
It does.
he said that?
It does.
Says what? It says that he has not seen her since October.
It does state that, yes, sir.
And that he admitted that he talked to her the night before.
Yes, it does state that, yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions.
Just a couple quick ones.
Read it back.
I know everybody's ready for a break. I'm showing you now what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1. You remember Mr. Treslow asking you about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who wrote that report?
Officer Kenneth Canterbury.
Okay. And did you do a report?
I did not.
Do you ever do a report?
When my officer is assigned to the call, no, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. Because you're in a supervisory role.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you review the reports?
I do.
Okay. But you don't actually write the reports?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you didn't write a report, but Kenneth Canterbury did?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I think there's some confusion. What did the defendant tell you that night?
The defendant told me by telephone that he had not spoken with Heather Elvis in 6 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Now, Mr. Treslow asked you about somebody abusing her. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you collect any information about any abuse or any altercation or any dispute from anybody that you talked with?
I did.
Okay. And if you don't mind, clear it up. Who was involved in that dispute or altercation with the victim?
Sidney and Tammy.
Okay. Did anybody say anything to you about any other man and her being involved with any altercation or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If they had would you have reached out to that person?
I would have.
Okay. And did you reach out to anybody other than the defendant?
No, I did not.
Would you given any information from anybody that night from Tilted Kilt or anywhere else that led you to contact anybody other than this defendant?
No, I was not.
No further questions.
Recross.
We're going back when this happened in December of 2013, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and how long have you worked with Horry County Police Department?
17 years.
You're in a supervisory role.
Yes, sir.
What is the importance, if at all, of making written reports?
To document what
What's
you're
the
told or done.
And what's the importance of documenting it?
Just that, documenting.
Okay, well,
what was told.
why would you want to document something?
To have record of it.
So you could look back to see what was said or done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you didn't write that particular report, correct?
I did not.
Officer Canterbury, who you sent, wrote the report.
Yes, sir.
And you reviewed the report.
Yes, sir.
Because you're in a supervisor role, you didn't write the report, you reviewed it.
Yes, sir, I
Correct?
did.
Now, when you reviewed the report, if it was incorrect, would you approve it?
No, not necessarily.
Do you have to think about that?
No, I don't have to think about it. I said not necessarily.
So there are some circumstances under which you would approve an incorrect report?
No, none.
What do you mean not necessarily?
We're asking about the asking of the report. You asked me then, do you have to think about it? I said not necessarily,
Okay.
not about the report, about do I have to think about it?
Okay, so if you reviewed the report and it was correct, you approve it.
Yes.
If you reviewed the report and there was inconsistencies or it was not correct or what you said or what happened, you would not approve it.
Yes.
You approve this report.
I did approve the report.
And it says what we just talked about, you and I.
Yes, it does.
Now, what altercation that Ms. Livesay was asking you about, I asked you about Jeremy Fleming. You got information in that report that you reviewed that you heard from her father to check on this guy because he was an abusive ex-boyfriend, correct?
I didn't receive any information from her father.
Who did that information come from?
Casey Canterbury.
It's in the report.
It's in the report, yes.
That you reviewed.
That I reviewed.
And that you would not approve unless it was correct.
Yes.
Now, the other altercation that just came up about Sidney and Tammy, can you tell me what you're talking about with that? What was that about just now?
That information also came from the manager of Tilted Kill.
There we go. So the manager of Tilted Kill, who you don't know his name, even though we're here in trial today, huh?
I do not recall his name.
Okay.
He identified himself as the manager.
Does the name Dennis Hart ring a bell?
I've heard the name.
Okay. But you don't know if he was the manager?
I don't.
So the same manager, you don't remember his name, told you that there was an incident between Sidney Moorer and Tammy Moorer and Heather Elvis?
Yes.
And was this have to do with a black eye by chance?
I don't recall the black eye. I was just told there was an altercation in the parking lot.
The parking lot of where?
Of Broadway at the beach, where Tilted Kilt is located, or was located.
And that was documented in a report?
That was not.
That was not. So, in a case where he's charged with kidnapping Heather Elvis, you're told by a kitchen manager, who you cannot remember his name here in trial today, that there was an altercation in the parking lot of the Tilted Kilt between Sidney and Tammy Moore, or one or the other, or both, and Heather Elvis, and that was not documented.
At the time, it wasn't a kidnapping case. It was trying to find a possible missing persons.
All right. So is that from memory today? That the kitchen manager told you that? You just recall him telling you that?
I don't know who the kitchen manager is. He identified himself as the manager, but the manager told me that, yes.
The manager told you that. You remember that, and it wasn't documented, but you don't remember his name?
No, sir.
And that's never been documented? The altercation?
No, sir.
Is it your general habit when you're investigating cases and you're getting information from different witnesses and potential witnesses in a case like this, not to type it up or write it down? Is that generally how you do it?
No, it's not generally how I do it.
But that's how you did it in this case?
Well, as I stated, when we were starting the case, it was a missing persons case in which we were just trying to check the welfare of Heather Elvis.
Did you personally go back and talk to the manager at the Tilted Guild at any point in time?
I spoke with him once.
Okay, so, and that's the time we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
So, once this case developed, once he was charged with kidnapping in February of 2014, did you ever go back and talk to the manager of the Tilted Guild about any of this?
No, I did not.
Did you ever go back and get his name?
No, I did not. It was turned over to investigations the next morning.
All right. Nothing further for this witness.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, I hear you. Thank you.
You wish the witness to be excused to listen?
Yes, please,
Any
Your Honor.
objection?
No objection.
You're free to leave, sir.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we'll take a recess. Do not begin your deliberations. We'll be back here in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Next.
for the purposes of going forward, and every judge is different. You probably already realized by now, I'm one that, because I did it as a lawyer too, speaking objections are an art. I don't allow speaking objections. If you need to argue it, we'll excuse the jury, but just state the basis of your objection, please, succinctly, so I can make a ruling, and that way we won't have the discussion that we've been having. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much, and I appreciate your patience with my idiosyncrasies too. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. We'll be at ease.